Hi, everybody. Dan Oman, Mike Beer, taking a look at race number 6 at Churchill Downs on Kentucky Derby Saturday. It's a grade 1 for fillies and mares and some good ones sprinting 7/8 of a mile. It's the Derby City Distaff. Let's take a look at this field. It's a full field. It's a competitive field. Alva Star, the number 7, Mike, has just been so consistent. She seems to show up each and every time. She's never been out of the exacta from 8 lifetime starts, and she earned that valuable grade 1 victory when beating Vava Red Carpet Ready last time out in the grade 1 Madison.
Feels like maybe the strength of this race is drawn towards the outside a little bit, Dan, with those 3 horses that you mentioned. Alva Star, listen, she had the advantage of a recent race when she, got the better of Vava last time. And I also just like the fact that she showed that she could rate a little bit there, which I thought was a good sign for her. I wonder how fast this pace gets.
That's a very good question. Going into the last race, I still think there was a question about whether Alva Star would be as effective going 7
Mhm.
as she is at 3/4 of a mile. Maybe that sort of new dimension of sitting off a horse will help her get this sort of distance again, even if the pace is fast. Timeform US has her pace projector up, and they believe this pace is going to be fast. And it should be, because Spirit Wind is a pretty quick horse coming up from Gulfstream. Alva Star can likely work out a good trip in here, as can Olivia Darling, who has good tactical speed.
Yeah, no, I agree. I'm not really sure what to make of the pace, and I do think it's one of the major questions involved here. I do think the 5 will make the lead. Alva Star is fast enough to get there if she wants to, but they did back off of it last time, and it worked for them. I mean, even Red Carpet Ready, Dan. I mean, she showed speed last time, and she sort of got involved on the pace, but she doesn't have to be ridden that way. I don't know. I thought this pace was kind of confusing.
And if the pace is hot, keep an eye on the number 3, Flying Connection, who has the fastest late pace rating from Timeform US and is cutting back in distance after being wired by a very good horse, Adair Manor, in the Apple Blossom. We usually like horses cutting back to 7, and she has prior good sprint races. We'll start things off with a good sprinter in her own right, and that's the number 1, Three Witches, who really looked good towards the summer of last year for Safi Joseph. Ended up winning the Princess Rooney, ran 3rd in the Breeders' Cup Filly and Mare Sprint, sold for $1.7 million at public auction, and then came back and did this first time for Michael McCarthy. This is easy.
Yeah, it's a big number that they paid for this filly at the end of last year. She wins this race very easily. I don't think it's a super strong field that she beats. And she got a great trip in there. But listen, another step in the right direction, as you mentioned. She was getting better towards the end of last year. She took another step forward last time. Maybe she progresses again here. I do think she can get the right trip. I mean, I didn't love her in this race, Dan, but I won't be surprised when she runs well.
Pace adaptable, however, can come from out of it as she did in the Princess Rooney, can sit just up close as she did last time out in the Santa Monica. 8-1, a fair price considering her credentials. The 2 is Olivia Darling, a horse that's ridden in good company down at Gulfstream Park. A second last time out in the Hurricane Birdie to Red Carpet Ready. The time before that, winning the inside information at 7 furlongs. So she's really in good form right now, Mike, and 7 furlongs is not an issue for another horse that can adapt to the pace scenario.
Yeah, she's another one. I do think she can get a good trip in here. I won't argue with her recent form. It's fine. She got the big figure 2 back, beating a field that I thought was maybe a little bit subpar. They moved her up last time into, I think, was a better field, even though it was a grade 3. I don't know, Dan. She was the favorite. She ran okay in there. I didn't think she ran as well as Red Carpet Ready, who was off the layoff that day and now feels like she could just keep getting better. And I wonder if Olivia Darling, I wonder if you could say that about her.
Flying Connection's the number 3. Now, her last 5 victories have come around 2 turns, and she ran really well when a no-match second behind Adair Manor in the Grade 1 Apple Blossom. She does have good sprint form, however. She's turning back in distance. She should get a little bit of a setup, Mike, and that last race at least showed she belongs in a race like this.
I like that she did it last time by coming from way out of it, because all of her other races, she was just sort of up front for the most part and sort of taking advantage of what it feels like. I just want to say weaker fields, Dan. I don't know. Maybe not. Maybe I'm just being too hard on her. They moved her up in class last time. They tried a totally different running style and it worked, and they got her grade 1 place. I kind of feel like she was a suck up second in there, but I don't want to knock her too hard. She's going to be a good price in this race.
The number 4 Chi-Town Lady came from way off of a quick pace to win the Grade 1 test at Saratoga, going this 7 furlong distance. And it's just been a shame that Wesley Ward has had a whale of a time getting her back on a regular racing schedule. They didn't have another prep before that year's Breeders' Cup Filly and Mare Sprint, and she ran okay, rallying from the back to be 6th. She only started twice last year, but she came back with her one and only start at Tampa And she looked pretty good in this race, the Minaret, Mike, a race where she rallied from way out of it to win, and the fifth place horse came back to place at Tampa with a 90 buyer.
Yeah, she wins this race easily too. Not as far back in this race as she had been in some of her earlier races, but she still has a lot of ground to make up through the stretch, Dan. She wins it easily, though. You can see her coming now inside the final furlong. She just goes right over the top of these horses and wins it way easier than the final margin. Will suggest there's not a fast race that you can point to here. You do have to worry about how this pace sets up in front of her, because that could be a real issue. I still think she's underrated. She's run some really good races. If this race sets up for her, she will be running at the end of this race.
She'll be rallying from the back of the pack, while the number 5 Spirit Wind is expected to make the pace, according to Timeform US. And her most recent start was her first for Saffie Joseph. She showed speed in the Hurricane Birdie. I really didn't see much of an excuse for her to finish third behind Red Carpet Ready and Olivia Darling, although it was her first start off of a short layoff. It's interesting that the blinkers are coming on here for Saffie Joseph. You figure this horse already has plenty of early speed. We'll see if she could take a forward move in her second off the layoff. The key for her is, can she get a breather on the backstretch, and can she last 7?
Yeah, that I'm most worried about the trip that she pulls in this race, Dan, because I do think there is a scenario where she's just the most aggressive speed in this. I don't want to say the best speed, but the most aggressive speed. She just goes to the lead and they just sort of sit off of her a little bit. And if they do that, it could be a mistake. She's still lightly raced enough that she could move forward again, and her overall form is really solid.
American Band, the number 6, is 30-1 on the morning line, and I've seen far worse 30-1 shots. This horse has finished first or second in her last, 8 starts, and she beat 3 next out winners in this race. The Matron last time out, going 6 furlongs at Oaklawn. The 6th place finisher from this race would come back to win the Roxalana at Churchill with an 87 buyer speed figure. So this mare continues to show up. Now she's got to run a fast one.
Yeah, she's got to run a lot faster. Moving. This was a move up in class for her here at the Stakes Company. She's going to get the job done here. If she shows up on Saturday and runs this race, she's not going to win the Derby City Distaff. She's going to have to run a better race than that against some better horses here. But just another horse who just brings great form into this, and you can sort of look at the races she's been running and understand why they want to take a shot in this race.
Alva Star was beaten by Vava in last year's Raven Run. She got her revenge in the Madison, making it 2 for 2 in 2024. Let's take a look at Alva Star's most recent performance, going 7/8. She sat just off the lead. She makes the top turning into the stretch. She beats 3 of these, and Vava's coming on the outside. Red Carpet Ready runs a decent third off of the layoff. We'll see if Alva Star can do it again. Just looking over her form, you figure she's always going to run a useful race, if not a winning one.
Yeah, her overall form is really, really good. And again, I think the takeaway from this, and again, I do think it's important to note that that Vava was off the layoff there, while Alva Star had her prep at Oaklawn with an easy win against overmatched horses. But this horse was initially part of the pace in there, Dan, 4 wide, and then Tyler Geffler just sort of backed her off. She was comfortable sitting off the pace. She made a run to take over, and she held on to the end. Just another really good performance for her. She's impossible to knock.
The number 8 is Sterling Silver. She finished 4th in the Madison last time out, trying to rally from out of it. Maybe she'll get a little bit more pace to attack this time around. Her prior form on dirt was very, very good. She finished first in her 3 prior dirt races, including a controversial disqualification in the Gallant Balloon during the Belmont and Aqueduct meet. She kicks on in the stretch, Mike.
She really does. I feel like she had a decent setup, though, in the Madison last time, Dan, and she just really couldn't do that much with it. She was on the inside as they came into the stretch, and I don't know, maybe you want to say she didn't want to rally inside of horses, but I don't know. I just didn't feel like she had a super strong kick in that race. I do think she can do better if the pace is really fast. I think there's a chance that she gets into the number somewhere. I bet her last time. I don't really want to bet her again, but she should be a good price.
The 9 Red Carpet Ready really stepped forward in her third start of 2023, winning the Grade 2 8 Bells over Course and Trip at Churchill Downs. That race came on the heels of a third-place effort in the Devona Dale. This will be her third start of 2024, coming off the heels of a third-place effort in the Madison. And I like this nice outside attack post position. They were very aggressive with her in the Madison. I don't think that's going to be the case here. I think they'll be very happy if they're sitting third or fourth outside and in the clear.
I agree. She's capable of pulling that trip. And I just feel like last time drawn inside, a bunch of horses went early. So she went too. And then when Alva Star backed off of it, it just, Red Carpet Ready was the one who wound up sort of doing the dirty work in there. I thought she actually ran really well. She came back off the layoff with a good performance to beat a couple of these horses. She ran well again last time. could get a different trip in here. She's a major player as far as I can tell.
Vava, the number 10, is a very logical player as well. She ran second in the Madison behind Alva Star, but that was her first race since the Raven Run back in October, and it's quite possible she was using that race as a prep for this one. She's another horse that can sit in mid-pack on the outside and make a late kick. She ran a very big fig 2 starts back. She's always shown promise, and she's another that really found herself when cut back to a sprint after being briefly on the Oaks Trail.
I agree. I like too that when she closed down Alva Star at the end of last year, she just made sure to keep that horse in range. And that's when Alva Star was really using her speed. She wouldn't let her get away and then wore her down at the end. I thought that was a really good performance. Last time she was off the layoff and Alva Star wasn't, and she just had a little bit too much to do in the stretch. I still thought she ran a really good race for her first start back.
Let's take a look at our top selections for the $1 million Derby City Distaff. We're going to go for some prices in here. You're going with Chi-Town Lady, who was a Grade 1 winner at 3. And the fact that Wesley Ward is running her in this race, despite the fact that he rarely gets her to the races, I think is a very, very good sign. She's going to get the right setup. I think at a price, you have to use her kicking in the lane.
Yeah, you can't really waste starts with her, Dan, because you never know when she's going to turn up again. So you got to run her in a Grade 1 here. Again, that pace is a little confusing to me. I'm hoping that it goes in front of her because she's going to need something to run at. I just think she's underrated. She's going to be a big price in this race, and I want to take a shot with her. Of those horses that are emerging from the Madison, I kind of prefer Vava, but I could use any one of those 3 horses.
I'm hoping the pace doesn't go, except for Spirit Wind. I want her to go first-time blinkers and make the lead for Safi Joseph. I wonder if maybe second-time Safi figured something out from that first start and maybe can move her up a couple of lengths. She should be in the thick of things, turning for home at a square price. 410.97 for Mike, 5710.9 for me. Grade 1 Derby City Distaff, just getting started on Kentucky Derby Saturday at Churchill Downs. Best of luck.